You saw the build. You saw the promos. And then WWE pulled the most disrespectful stunt possible. They made Lola Vice and Kendall Gray fight like it was a mid-card filler, not the career-defining, winner takes a shot at the women's title #1 contenders match it deserved to be. How dare they risk two of NXT's brightest stars and one of the most hyped matchups of 2026 on sloppy booking, bad timing, and the kind of production choices that make a mockery of everything these women have worked for. If you're sick of the company undercutting women's wrestling, smash that like, ram your thoughts into the comments, and share this everywhere, because what happened on the 31st of March isn't just a match, it's a statement, and it's one we can't let them ignore. Segment 1, setting the stage, stakes, heat, and hype. The 31st of March 2026. An NXT crowd buzzing like a live wire. The prize, a shot at the Women's Championship, not a meaningless trophy, but a career-changing opportunity. Lola Vice, cold, calculated, borderline sociopathic in her ring psychology, came in with a chip on her shoulder and a resume that screams main event. Kendall Gray, heart, athleticism, the rare eruptive talent who can shift momentum with a single springboard, came in as the fan favorite, the blue-collar warrior who'd clawed her way to this chance. Everything about this match should have read like the climax of a movie. Long-running built-in feuds, promos dripping with personal attacks, social media wars, and backstage confrontations. That's the promise. That's the contract these two sold us. The expectations were seismic. So when the bell rang, every fan's pulse demanded fireworks. Trivial question for the comments: who did you think had the better entrance, Lola Vice or Kendall Gray? Vote in the comments and say why. Segment 2, the opening minutes, chess, not brawl. From the opening bell, this wasn't a slugfest. It was a chess match built on contrasts. Lola Vice opened with those methodical, veteran-paced holds wearing down Kendall's shoulder, attacking limps, cutting off movement. Vice's striking was precise, not a flurry but a scalpel. She knew she couldn't out-athlete Kendall, so she systematically took away Kendall's strengths. Kendall answered with grit. Short, explosive bursts, shoulder tackles, a desperation spinning kick that nearly changed the match's texture. The crowd ate it up. Remember that moment where Kendall hit a quick sequence, a snap suplex into a kick that looked like a turning point? That's the kind of momentum swing that makes NXT nights unforgettable. But Vice's ring IQ kept her alive, tying Kendall into knots with submissions, a pronounced focus on the right arm, and those little microsleeps where she'd slow the pace and stare, daring Kendall to risk everything. Note for comments: which small move did you think was the real turning point in the first 5 minutes? Name it and why. Segment 3, the psychology, storytelling in every hold. This match told a layered story. Vice's strategy to isolate the arm wasn't random, it was wrestling psychology. Strip away Kendall's ability to whip out her springboard offense, and suddenly that signature offense becomes a myth. Vice's grappling, those half-grab holds, and the studious targeting of the joints all screamed experience-level storytelling. When you watch it frame by frame, you see design. Kendall's storytelling was different, desperation morphing into brilliance. She dug deep into the crowd's energy, launching counters that were high risk but high reward. She sold pain in a way that made every comeback believable. You could feel the crowd simultaneously fearing for her and hoping with every fiber. That emotional oscillation, fear, hope, dread, elation, is wrestling at its best. Trivial question for comments: if you had to pick one word to describe the match psychology, which would you pick? Methodical, explosive, desperate, or brilliant? Vote and defend your answer. Segment 4, the big spots, risk, execution, and moments of brilliance. A title contender match like this needs big spots, and it delivered. Let's break down the huge moments that made the match pulse. The apron suplex, Kendall climbed the top rope, Vice met her with a lightning-quick reversal. The suplex onto the apron, a spine-tingling, gasp-inducing moment, looked dangerous and sold the match's stakes. Crowd went silent, then roared. The countered moonsault, Kendall attempted a moonsault that was perfectly set up, but Vice twisted midair and landed out of the sequence, turning offense into an advantage. That was a masterclass in ring awareness. The near falls, 2 near falls in the last 5 minutes, each one scored at 2.7s and 2.9s, and the timing of those kicks out was cinematic. The referee's 10 count, the camera zooms, the crowd reactions, all of it elevated a match that could have been routine into edge-of-your-seat chaos. The signature sequence, Kendall's springboard into a Falcon Arrow attempt, transitioned by Vice into a modified crossface stop-motion cruelty. That sequence alone is highlight reel material for years. Call to action in comments: which single big spot from the match gave you the loudest reaction? Type the timecode or describe it and tell us why it worked. Segment 5, the commentary and production, a mixed bag. This match had a narrative problem, and it wasn't with the wrestlers. The The commentary occasionally missed the plot. The announcers oscillated between hyperbole and silence. For a number one contenders match, you need breathless sell. You need the announcers to be a chorus for the story, reminding casual viewers why the stipulations matter, reeling off stakes, and pushing personal vendettas. Too much dead air at certain junctures allowed the tension to wane. Production-wise, there were camera choices that outright sabotaged momentum. A critical near-fall was captured at an angle that made the action look less dramatic than it should have. That close-up cut too early, and suddenly the audience's gasp lost its visual follow-through. Small choices like that ripple into how fans emotionally invest. Provocative question 4 comments. Did commentary help or hurt the match? Call it boosted, neutral, or damaged. Explain your pick. Segment 6 The Turning Point, a moment you can't ignore. About 2/3 into the match, something shifted. Kendall tried to hit the grey matter, her top rope meteor to armbar sequence. That move is a crowd pleaser and the match's logical high spot. She launched, but Vice intercepted with an elbow, not just any elbow, but a calculated counter that looked as if Vice had played the sequence in her head a dozen times. That counter led to a damaged shoulder, then to Vice's methodical squeeze, and ultimately to the match's most controversial decision, a ref stoppage that felt premature to half the audience and merciful to the other half. If you boil it down, the referee judged Kendall's shoulder as compromised to the point of risking long-term damage. Do we trust the ref? Did Vice manipulate the stoppage by making the pain look worse at the right moment? That's where wrestling and real life diverge, in the gray area between protection and performance. Hot question 4 comments. Did you agree with the ref stoppage? Why /N and explain why in one sentence. Segment 7 The Finish, Controversy, Heat, and Aftermath. Here's where the video gets divisive. The match ended not with a clean pinfall or a dramatic submission, but with a referee stoppage due to injury. Lola Vice stood victorious, but the crowd's reaction wasn't celebratory, it was fractured. Half the arena chanted unclear, unclear, while the other half leaned into Vice's smirk as if she'd just used every trick in the book. This finish generates more heat than a classic heel victory because it muddies the waters. Vice's victory, legitimate or manufactured, puts her in line for the women's title shot, but at what cost? A tainted win creates narrative gold, frustration, rematches, moral debate. Meanwhile, Kendall lies in the ring, selling not just physical pain but the psychological devastation of a dream deferred. Debate prompt 4 comments. Is a controversial stoppage more compelling than a clean loss? Pick yes or no and give a one-sentence reason. Segment 8 Character work. Who came out stronger? This match was a character amplifier. Lola Vice's persona, cold, calculating, borderline sociopath, grew exponentially. She didn't just win, she demonstrated the lengths she'd go to secure a title shot. Every little sneer, every delay tactic, and that final stare into the camera said, "I will do whatever it takes." Kendall Gray's character arc is tragic hero in motion. She was the underdog who put everything on the line, who fought like her life depended on it, and who now walks away with an asterisk next to her name. That's a storyline that begs for retribution, for a rematch with higher stakes, and for the crowd to rally behind her like never before. Fan engagement question. Who's more likely to benefit longer term from this outcome, Lola Vice or Kendall Gray? Pick one, and explain in 2 sentences. Segment 9 Booking decisions, smart or short-sighted? Let's talk consequences. Booking a title elimination match to end in controversy is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it protects both competitors. Scenario A, Kendall gets sympathy and remains credible. Scenario B, Lola gets victory and heat without demoralizing a rising star. From a storytelling perspective, it creates friction and future content. On the other hand, wrestling thrives on momentum. Kendall came in hot. A clean loss would have been a definitive end, painful but climactic. A controversial stoppage steals closure and can frustrate fans who crave decisive outcomes. WWE needs to set up the fallout properly. Rematches, stipulations, no stoppage, no DQ, steel cage, and a narrative pathway that doesn't feel like a lazy cop-out. Question for the audience. If you were booking the rematch, what stipulation fixes the controversy? Cage, no DQ, doctor's oversight clause? Vote in comments. Segment 10 Moments that will live on, visuals and GIF-worthy clips. Some images from the match will be replayed 4 years. Lola Vice's post-finish stare, Kendall clutching her shoulder with tears in her eyes, the apron suplex, the moonsault counter. These are GIF-grade moments. They'll fuel Twitter thread debates, TikTok recuts, and highlight reels. The match gave us marketable moments, even if its ending left a bitter taste. Fan task. If you were clipping a 15-second highlight to sum up the match, which moment would you use? Drop the timestamp or short description. Segment 11 The Fans' Role, why your reaction matters. A match like this lives or dies on audience reaction. The crowd's boos, cheers, and chants amplify narrative. If fans don't care, wrestling collapses into filler. But when fans voice outrage about a suspicious stoppage, companies take notice whether they admit it or not. Social momentum drives merch, storylines, and creative direction. If you felt robbed, say it. If you felt satisfied, say it. This is how change happens. Engagement prompt, comment robbed or fine and add one line. What should WWE do next? Segment 12, comparing to classic contender matches. Let's put this match in context. Think about iconic women's contender bouts from the past, the heart-stopping drama of Sasha vs. Bayley, the fearless athleticism of Charlotte's ladder runs, the grit of Lita era classics. Lola vs. Kendall had elements of those matches, psychology, risk, and personal heat. But it also suffered from modern pitfalls, production inconsistency, and a finish that felt like an afterthought. If you could compare this match to one classic women's match, which would it be and why? Answer in comments. Segment 13, what this means for the women's division. The fallout will shape NXT's women's division for months. Lola Vice moving up means the champion has a challenger who's dangerous, cunning, and unafraid of moral ambiguity. Kendall, meanwhile, becomes the Phoenix candidate, the one the crowd will root harder for, the one primed for a comeback tour. Both options are good for storytelling, but only if creative plays the long game. Prediction prompt, where do you see Kendall Gray in 6 months? Still chasing champion out injured? Pick one and justify with 2 lines. Segment 14, tactical notes, what each wrestler should improve. Both women delivered, but both can sharpen edges. Lola Vice needs to stop letting small production errors ruin her high points. When you're a heel, you want the crowd to hate you from the highest possible emotional peak, so she needs to translate ring psychology into moments that camera work can't undercut. Kendall Gray can refine her comeback pacing. Too many times in the match she burned energy on improbable bursts only to get caught on counters. She's athletic enough to modulate her offense, build towards signature spots cleanly, and avoid playing into trap sequences. Fan coaching prompt, if you could give one piece of advice to Kendall and one to Lola, what would they be? 1 sentence each, put them in comments. Segment 15, social media fallout and memes. Within minutes of the match ending, social channels erupted. Fans split into camps, memeing the stoppage and creating debate threads. Memes have power. They can mythologize a moment or lampoon a decision into irrelevance. Expect weeks of clips, reaction videos, and heated takes from podcasters. That noise is both a headache and an opportunity for the women involved, especially if they lean into it. Imagine a social media rematch build where Kendall posts a Raw rehab clip and Vice post cold, triumphalist promos. That's narrative dynamite. User poll prompt, if you were running the social account for Lola or Kendall, what single post would you make right after the match? Drop a 1-line caption in comments. Segment 16, potential rematch scenarios and dream matchups. Here's where creative gets fun. What rematch scenarios fix the controversy? A best-of-3 series could solve the legitimacy issue. A specialty match, no stoppage, steel cage, or time limit draw clause could elevate stakes. Beyond a rematch, think long-term, Kendall versus the champion in a sprint-style match, Vice versus a veteran who exposes her for being manipulative, a triple threat where the champion benefits from the chaos. Engagement ask, which dream matchup would you book next? Kendall versus champion, Lola versus veteran, or a triple threat? Vote below. Segment 17, the emotional core, why we care. This match mattered because of what it represented, ambition, risk, and the long grind to the top. Fans don't just watch moves, they watch lives. Kendall's heartbreak after that stoppage is the human element that turns wrestling into more than sport. Lola's smirk is the catalyst for lustful villainy that sets fire to the roster. Those human beats are why we keep watching, buying tickets, and staying up at night debating finishes on forums. Reflection prompt, write 1 sentence about how this match made you feel. Raw honesty wins. Segment 18, final verdict, triumph, theft, or tragedy. So where does this match land? It was a triumph of in-ring storytelling and a tragedy of execution at the finish line. There were brilliant sequences, electric crowd moments, and performances that deserved a clearer resolution. But the controversial stoppage leaves us angry with a burning demand for a follow-up that honors both athletes. Final engagement challenge, if this video hits 50k likes, I'll make a part 2 breakdown focusing just on the last 5 minutes frame by frame, slow motion analysis, mic audio breakdown, and a booking proposal for the rematch. Comment below part 2 if 50k and share this video everywhere. Closing call to action but no intro. If you were at the arena, what chant did you join during the stoppage? If you watched at home, what was your immediate tweet? Drop that exact reaction in the comments, timestamp it if you can. Argue, defend, rage, and share. If WWE thinks they can bury this by moving the story along quietly, they are wrong. Wrestling lives in the outrage and the fandom's capacity to demand better futures for the people we care about. One last quick poll for the comments: who wins in a rematch, clean fall, Lola or Kendall? Say your pick and predict the finish in one sentence. End note. Viewer engagement recap. Vote on entrances, Lola or Kendall. Why? Best early match turning point. Did commentary help or hurt? Boosted / neutral, damaged. Agree with ref stoppage. Why / n and one sentence reason. Is a controversial stoppage more compelling than a clean loss? Yes / no and one sentence reason. Who benefits long-term, Lola or Kendall? 2 lines. Booking the rematch. What stipulation? Best 15-second highlight, timestamp or description. Robbed or fined? 1 line reason. Where's Kendall in 6 months? Pick and justify. Advice to Kendall and Lola, 1 sentence each. Social post caption for each wrestler, 1 line. Dream matchup to book next. Pick 1. Emotional one-liner. How the match made you feel. Final prediction, rematch, winner and finish in 1 sentence. This match was more than 80 minutes of action. It was a flashpoint for NXT's future. Don't let them sweep it under the carpet. Comment, share, and demand the closure this match earned but didn't receive. Wrestling is ours, the fans' reactions. Write the next chapter. Leave your takes now, and if you want the deep dive breakdown of that controversial final stretch, make some noise in the comments and hit that like. 50k likes gets us a full frame-by-frame teardown. Which side are you on, Team Lola or Team Kendall? Say it loud in the comments and bring receipts.